The day is not complete for me without a bit of crazy. The borderline personality. You all know one of these people, and I love them. They're very difficult, and if you are a borderline personality, you will know I'm talking about you. So I was just thinking about you and people who have to deal with you, which is the way it goes. So as a clinician and as a person who feels deeply, I will talk about it, because probably I'm the only person today you're going to meet who's going to talk straight about this. So I'm talking to humans, usually again empaths. Please see my the Cry of the Empath video that I did last week. It's very important, I would say, particularly now for people who are deeply feeling. Pop a 15 in the chat, and again I say numbers so that I can take a pulse on, does this make sense, is it resonating? Pop a 15 in the chat, in the feed, if you know someone who is highly manipulative, passive aggressive. They withdraw when they're in a mood and they blame you. Poor me, everything's terrible, I can't cope, etc. On my website, I just realised it was blacked out, and we'll add it again as a directory, and you can look it up, narcissism, blah blah. I've been doing this a long time, and we're updating it so it's a bit better. And it works like a search bar. So if you feel, I'd like to know my personality traits and my weird and wonderful things, up to utterly nuts in your head, there's a directory, anorexia, it'll tell you a bit about it, and so on. So we'll put it up again next week, I'm sure. If you ever want to, pop a 25 if this is useful already. I'm going to talk to the manipulators amongst you and love on you, because, and you guys who deal with these people, because I care enough. Care enough to tell people the truth, because I'd like you to do well. I'd like you to have a happy life. Pop a 1 if you know what BPD is, borderline personality disorder, So there's personality disorders where if you look at the DSM-5, this is useful, pop a 23 if it is so far. The DSM-5 is the diagnostical statistical manual that people with brain in my field, psychology, help position traits that we have and behaviours. And I'm not a great fan of pathologizing, pigeonholing people. However, sometimes when you have symptoms, it can be useful to go, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Wow, okay, I know what I'm dealing with. So I'm not a fan of people saying, oh, you are this. People sometimes say to me, oh, you're looking well, because I'm bipolar. And it's like, oh, whatever, not helpful. Your medication, all this kind of stuff that the medical field often has us over-identify with one part of us. We all have our thing. As I say very frequently, and I also mean it, we're all on the spectrum of mental health. So when people say they're mentally ill, that means very little, actually. Can be useful. However, I would say our culture is mentally ill. The health of our mentality is super poor. So in this park on a Friday evening, I don't know, there's probably about 100 people. Well, because they're in the park, it's a different psychology. The majority of the average sort of people are very poor in their head. And the way to know is how healthy your thoughts are, and how healthy you feel, how happy you feel, and how conflicted your relationships are. So for example, pop a 35, I'm going off tangent, however, it's all relevant. Pop a 35 in the chat if you are super happy with your relationships, super happy. You feel good in their presence. You feel good. And pop a 11 if you don't. I'm talking generally. Pop a 3 in the chat if you can think of 3 people in your life who are just negative and draining and blowing up in your face, and that includes family. And Proper 41, if you've had some kind of counselling, therapy, coaching, and it really has been pretty bad. I hear so many stories, it's incredible, and I have my own, obviously. So let me talk to, for a minute, borderline personality disorder. If you go to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, DSM-5, you can look yourself up, any of us, and be careful, because most of us identify with certain traits, ways of being. However, to diagnose, and this is why general practitioners have no business diagnosing people. Never take it from a GP. Wow, does that levitate with rage when people do this. They have about maximum 6 weeks of training on mental health. So everybody's got GAD. Generalized anxiety disorder basically means I've got no idea, but if I generalize and say you're a little bit anxious and it's disordered way of being, then I've covered my arse. Please be careful and see a specialist, or if you see a doctor, ask, do you have prior learning, an extra bit? Because generally speaking, and no apology, if you see a general medic for a psychological issue, psychiatric issue, we attract what we speak into. Hello, my people are walking past. It's like going to the vet with piles, and asking a vet who deals with animals to look at your backside when you see a general practitioner, no joke. So you get to say, thank you for your time, could you just give me context? Do you have a sense of mental health issues? Yes, I see it all the time. Well, really? Could you tell me? Because it's your mental health, the health of your mentality. So if you're thinking thoughts of I can't, I won't, lack, lost, less, never, you're not well in your head. Mentally, you're not particularly stable. And that's the general person. Because our culture teaches us to think about lack and loss and never and all that. Are you with me? Pop a 4 in the chat if you are. Oh, yay, James. I was never able to do the work until I met you and your people. Bless everyone. Bless you, James. What a beautiful thing to say. Thank you. When we're ready is the point. Borderline personality. Do we know one of them? Look it up. They're fascinating. Passive aggressive. Blame everybody else. Me, all about me. Narcissistic. I love you people. You're amazing. The history of someone with borderline personality disorder, if we talk about that, is horrific. And if you heard the story, you would be broken. It is horrendous. The neglect, the abuse, psychic, spiritual, mental, physical, whatever it is. The degree to which our history is disturbed is the degree to which our present is disturbed. And we all get to be loved. And we all get to understand love and how to love. It will impact you to be around someone with manipulative traits, particularly if you're codependent and an empath. Pop a 4 in the chat if you know someone who does manipulate. And you run around after them, and they're very high maintenance people. They've always got drama. They sometimes self-harm. They sometimes threaten suicide. Generally, borderline personality disorder people don't kill themselves. However, the behavior is so risky that oftentimes there's suicide attempts, and sometimes they don't even know they're doing it because they're drug addicted or whatever. And they're usually just under the spectrum. So they're difficult and annoying, and you end up feeling resentful because you give, and they give you one of them, basically. And they have no idea that you're stacking resentment and looking, how can I make an excuse not to answer the phone or text back? Or they have no idea that they're inviting you to reject them. Because people with borderline traits and or the extreme disorder, the greatest fear is that you will turn your back on them. Pop a 41 in the chat if you are a borderline personality disorder. You might see on Google, if you Google me, some idiot wrote Poppy Sprague is a borderline personality disorder. No, I'm a specialist, I'm not. I'm bipolar, my love. They often get misdiagnosed by general practitioners. So you can self-diagnose, you can have a look for your friend or whomever. And the reality of it is, in my opinion, we're groomed to be certain ways and we're predisposed to be certain ways. So, you know, a lot of people, particularly those that stand to gain some money from medicating you, will say it's genetic. I would say it's behavioural, transgenerational, that we learn how to be based on how our parents are or the people we're around, we become them. My mum said to a friend of mine once, the reason you drink is because it's the only way you can be close to your father. And he instantaneously started to cry, which meant it resonated on an unconscious level. We do these weird and wonderful things. Anyway, my battery's running out. The point is, straight to the borderline personality disorder. I can see you. These are the people, and I love you, and I say this because I don't know that many people will, because if we don't mirror back to you how we feel in your presence, you will keep doing it, and we will move away from you and reject you and hurt you and do the very thing that you fear the most. No, you're a liar. You're a manipulator. You're being passive-aggressive. You cut us off. You set up things. You gaslight. You poor me. You do not look at yourself. You take. Me, all about me. And then you blame us for not doing it right. That is your stuff. It's called projection. You don't like me. You don't love me. You don't do enough for me. You don't answer the phone. You don't give me that. No, that's your stuff pushing it into us. And it's not okay. And you get to have it back, my love. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I see you. You are the people in the feed who say, I can't afford it, I won't, it's always been bad. You're super negative. And what might happen for some of you who are personality disordered, if you haven't already, is you'll be going, right, I'm never going to say anything in the feed again. She's a bitch. Poor me. She doesn't understand. How dare she? Blah, blah. It's all right for you because you haven't been where I've been. Stuff. No, please, you're very welcome. What I'm inviting you to do is to reflect on your psychology, thinking about loss, less, never, and it being everybody else's fault. We create what happens to us. So what I know about the borderline, and I'll leave it here because my battery's going to go, is this helpful to anyone? I say it with love. It's a loving interruption. Because I know many, many people, we go around the world going, why is that happening to me? And nobody has the balls, because we're so fearful of conflict, to say, when you do that, I feel rejected. When you say that, it hurts me, and I care enough to say this to you. And we get to say this to people. I hurt this young girl, poor borderline. She took it very personally because I positioned her. I said, my love, I'm not spoken to like that. So if we're going to speak, let's speak. Gaslight, and then goes, where's the fire come from? You lit it, my love. You set the trap, and then you lit the match, and then, it's hot in here. Why did you do that? Because you did it, my love, and now you're pissed off because we're all standing there having a response to your reactivity. And I hurt her because I was straight with her and mirrored it back. And I saw her in the lift just now, and I said, my love, are you X? Because it was in a group chat. And she said, yes. And I said, I'm very sorry that I hurt you, and I'll do better. And I just took responsibility for me. However, my clinical supervisor said this to me once. He said, Poppy, your job, really, I'm making it better than he said it. However, together, as a team, he said, our job as clinicians is to be able to be the response that you, as the disturbed person, all general people, particularly borderline people, we get to be the response that you couldn't have when you were being neglected, abused, inappropriate behaviour and stuff, which is to set a boundary and to say no. What's okay, what's not okay. When we don't have the courage to do that, people keep doing the same stuff and they're like baffled as to why we withdraw or ghost them or do the thing. Pop a 64 in the chat if you desperately fear abandonment, rejection, punishment, judgment, And yet, it may be something to do with you, the fact that it keeps happening. With me. So those of you who are here in the feed, please, everybody's welcome. Whatever you've done, whatever you think, you're very, very welcome. I'm positioning you to look at yourself if you choose. So when you say, oh, I'm so lonely and people blah, 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 and poor me stuff, please say it. And please look at, do I do this a lot? Do I me a lot? Do I wake up in the morning and do peak strategies for health and wealth and thriving? And if not, am I considering doing something with Poppy or someone who has done this, does it well, who can help me? Or am I just going to punish everyone around me because my mother or father or someone hurt me desperately, and I'm going to punish the world until everybody says, poor you, that was terrible. I'll tell you myself, poor you, that was terrible. You were victimized. Not okay. However, what you do with that is on you now, because if you, like me, understand disturbance, you can help us by getting well, looking at your part, being grateful for the lesson, the blessing, the whatever, teachings, and teach others of us who are hurting and disturbed and abused and neglected and traumatized and shamed and all of the guilt and stuff. You know pain inside out and rage, and you get to use your disturbance for good. We're a blessing and a warning, some of us who are really, really crazy. We're the leaders and the guides for the more well, ironically, in my opinion. I would say that because I'm mentally ill. However, I'm quite right in this one. Borderline personality disorder. If you know someone who's highly manipulative, me, completely exhausts you, you feel stuck with the resentment, hurt, abandoned, gaslit, all that stuff. Have a look. Personality disorders, borderline, the DSM-5, there are traits. And if they hit a certain amount and it shows you there, they have a disorder personality. And of course, our personalities are disordered because the world is disordered and we are a reflection of the world. So no, we don't get to pathologize people and go, you're this. We get to look at the context. Abuse, neglect, attack, trauma, that creates something, a behavior, many, across time, groom, and we get to look at the context. Where did this grow from? To not just look at the person and go, crazy person. No. Human, feeling human in a situation with crazy people. They're the black sheep, and we get to love on them and position them and hold a mirror to them and please people who are doing the doing. James, you get to mirror back to me and I'll hear you. People not doing the doing in the arena, getting marred and dusty and bloody in public, as Roosevelt said, Teddy. No, you don't get to feed back to me because you're not doing it yourself. Be you. Everything's welcome. Again, if you're cruel and shame of people will block you, I'm not having it. However, we get to look at ourselves so that we, particularly the crazy ones, get to help the other crazy ones. And ironically, the people hiding behind the crazy ones, because it's convenient for us to be in the front line looking like there's something wrong. There's something wrong with these ones as well. We get to lead from the front. The most disturbed we are, the bigger the light and the health is, ironically. The law of polarity, good, bad, night, day, healthy, unhealthy. We get to find the middle ground, all of us, and teach from that place. Whatever has hurt you and not good enough, that is your job. Teach us why and how to survive it, and you will be very wealthy, heart, mind, body, soul. And if you'd like to actually do this and take what I've got for you, then come to the Abundance Masterclass. You will love it. Send in love.